So, I've been seeing some people talking about this. Quite a few people, actually. Christian conservatives battle pro-LGBT Republicans. See TMZ episode 134 of Slightly Offensive. So, I'm not really familiar with the background to this specific issue, but it seems like, it seems like people wanted this. We have all the greats here, okay? We have Karlyn Borysenko, we have Blaire White, we have John Doyle looking very happy, hot and bothered, and we have Dumb White Bitch. And together, wait, I'm on Twitch, can I say that? That was ironic and not true. I respect all women here, okay? Dumb woman. There. Anyway, and they're arguing out over whether or not LGBT issues should be represented in the Republican Party, okay?
Dr. Carl here was the first one to celebrate me being
Karlyn. Karlyn. Well, I celebrated that you were banned on Twitter because you repeatedly tweeted that my husband should be deported, Lauren.
He's a legal alien.
I don't really know how much you know about me, but I'm probably the most vocal anti-children transitioning person on the internet. It's what I'm.
There you go.
It's well,
maybe I can be right here.
The best thing you can do for
what
us
if I'm here?
Is grow out your mustache and tell people not to live like you.
Wait, what? Wait, hold on.
It's well, I let you speak.
The best thing you can do for us is grow out your mustache and tell people not to live like you.
I didn't miss here. All right. Yeah, we're getting right into it, aren't we?
There's been a lot of arguments on Twitter recently where people cannot decide what it means to be right-wing or what the future of the party is. If you don't know why that's important, well, just look around you at the radical leftism, all the insanity in the culture, and a president who...
Oh, I talked with this Elijah Schaffer guy, by the way, one time on a... Oh, I'm in the way? Sorry, my bad. Let me... There we go. I talked with this guy one time. Jesse Lee Peterson was hosting some sort of discourse on the rioting following George Floyd's death. This guy is really dumb. This guy is very, 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 very dumb. Look at him. Look at his empty eyes, okay? They hide nothing. There's nothing going on back there. Here, I'll put myself in the middle later.
Borrowed an election and a country who wonders what is our future and who is going to save us from this absolute madness. Well, a lot of people seem to disagree, which is...
I like the opening, by the way, where he's like, the madness of the left. They've gone crazy. Leftist audio, by the way. But he doesn't point to anything specific at all. This is really, really good, I think. This is another one of those, like, pull people away from real issues type things on the part of Republicans, where they'll gesture vaguely at some sort of grand social catastrophe, but I mean, what are we talking about? The left going too far? With what?
Why I brought a panel of guests on to talk about what the future of the right wing looks like and how we win back our country. If we can bring them on the screen.
Why is it echoing?
I went ahead and I invited on a myriad of people. I have Karlyn, he's called Karlyn Borysenko.
Well done.
Awesome. Commentator. We also have Lauren Witzke. She ran for Congress in Delaware.
Really?
We also have Blaire White, YouTuber as well, and John Doyle, YouTuber, and they're all here to answer these questions. So let's talk a little bit about this as we get into this. Starting with Lauren, how do you describe yourself politically?
Okay, so I am socially conservative. I'm advocately. I've always been economically populist. Economic populism is the future of our party. However, preserving social conservatism within the Republican Party is a real passion of mine. I'm very pro-family. I'm very pro-life. My whole motto is I just like to win and save babies. So that's what I do.
There we go.
Awesome.
So I'm looking this person up, Lauren Witzke. Apparently, let's see. Trying to see if I can get some info on this person, because she's the only person here who I don't know about. Oh, we have a clip here. Wait, is this clip from this discussion? I think it is. Well, so listen to it would be spoilers, I guess. Okay.
Blaire, go ahead and tell us where you lean politically.
Yeah, every political quiz I've ever taken, matches center right. So that's me. I don't have sort of the popular story everyone loves of like, I'm a former liberal, I'm a lifelong Republican, always vote.
Oh God, guys. I'm so sorry for pausing again. I discovered something crazy. By discover, I mean somebody else discovered it for me. Oh my God, I can't believe this actually was real. Do you remember me doing a Blaire White political compass test video a while ago? Do any of you remember that? I went over her doing a political compass test, and I commented that it was odd. It was odd that she received a conservative, like a libertarian right position, because a lot of her answers pointed to liberal left. That she got her result was in the bottom right quadrant when her answers felt like they should have been in the bottom left. Well, I got this email. Let me see if I can find it. Oh no, I really hope that I can find it. I got this email from somebody saying that she faked it. Yeah, she actually edited it, and there's evidence that you can find in the video that she actually did get a lib left response from it, but then there was a brief cut, and then you're looking at a lib right answer right there. I wish I could show you the whole. I'm looking for it right now. Wait, I'm looking for Blaire White in my emails. I mean, you'd think that would have it in there. Hold on, maybe if I search political compass, can we get that? Do I mean political compass? Yes, I do. Oh, here we go. Okay. Not that you care, but Blaire White lied in her political compass test. I'll paste the comment I left on your video. The chart at the end is really fake. At the end of the test, the site will spit out two numbers, EC and SOC. These are present in the address bar. Hers are EC 0.75 and SOC 1.95. But when you actually enter those numbers into the webpage yourself at the end of a successful political compass test, you get a more lib-left chart than what she showed. To get her chart, you would need EC1 and SOC 1.95. And if you actually look at the final cut in her video...
Acts have gone too far.
So she's about to finish the test right here.
Actually strongly agree with that.
There we go.
Y'all be like really nasty talking about shit publicly you shouldn't talk about. All right.
And then there's a cut right there, and she's in the conservative right position. And God, is it possible to see this? I double checked myself, and it's right there. You can see in her tabs.
Okay, let's see where I stand. Okay.
In her tabs right here, center right political compass result. It actually says that. Does anyone else have a big enough monitor that you can read that?
Really nasty talking about shit publicly you shouldn't talk about. All right, let's see where
I stand. See? Okay. Right there. And then she closes it. Look, she's going to close it.
Center right, definitely more towards libertarian than authoritarian.
See? There. She closes it right there.
That makes complete sense.
Huh. And then, but I didn't catch it at the time, so I didn't mention that. But I'm about to say this test result doesn't look right. You know, I'm not going to lie. Based on the answers that she provided, I actually would have expected her to be further down the lib left hole. Yeah. She actually just quickly found another result and just pinned it in there. Which one is real? The real result for her test would have put her in the green quadrant, the lib left quadrant. But then because she's the conservative trans lady, she had to find another one that was center right. She just Googled center right political compass test result. And I'm pretty sure if I Google, hold on, center right political compass, do we get a result that's like exactly where hers is? Oh, well, there's actually a ton of results here, so you could get pretty much any answer you wanted from that one. But anyway, yeah, this isn't 100% or anything like that, but it kind of fits her modus operandi, and the evidence seems pretty compelling, especially because you can do the fidgeting over here in the URL if you really want to. But anyway, yeah. So, sorry, this is a little bit of a departure from what we were talking about before, but it's actually really funny to me. Blaire White is probably one of the most self-hating content creators on this platform, and she tries so hard to continue appealing to the conservative, you know, the conservative intelligentsia, in spite of the fact, I mean, we're about the stinger at the beginning of this video that we're about to watch had this woman who ran for office under the Republican Party saying that she should grow out her mustache. And Blaire White's about to fight for her right to participate as a member of this group. I mean, Christ.
Voted that way. And yeah, that's me. I'm definitely a little bit less socially conservative. And that's where I land.
John, go ahead.
It's a pretty clear copy paste between Lauren and myself, I think. Fiscally populist.
Hey, John.
Conservative.
Karlyn, are you different than them?
Yeah, I'm a little bit different in that, some people say I'm a former liberal. I'm actually a current liberal. I have never stopped being a liberal, even though I did leave the Democratic Party. I politically, on my political compass test, I tend to be right in the center, and I frankly just want common sense people to come up with common sense solutions.
Awesome. So as we get into this, I want to let you know.
Remember when she burned her bridge over Tim Pool because she was so mad that he talked to me? Like, they actually argued publicly on Twitter. And he was like, okay, I'll bring him back on. Oh, God, that was good.
Something important. This is the first question we're going to jump into, which is, what is the future of the right wing, right? If we're going to win a war, if we're going to fight the left, we've got to figure out who's on our side. And there's a split of trying to figure out if the future of the right is a conservative, moral Christian party that is a strong nationalist background, or if it's this big tent party full of liberals, libertarians, disaffected left, etc. Before we jump into that, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor for today. Guys, the world is getting crazy, and I'm telling you, it is not getting easy out there. Not only do you need and satisfaction guaranteed,
Jesus Christ,
holsters and defensive. Okay, guys, so let's jump right into this. So my question...
Why is this guy's audio so bad? He's in a studio. He has a mic and a headset. Why? What echo? Why? What's happening?
Is this? As we look to take back the country from the radical left and we seek to make it a stronger place, how are we going to do that? Is it A, by building a stronger conservative Christian moral party? Or is it B, building a big tent party of libertarians?
We're going over that Luna Oi video today.
Disaffected left, conservatives, etc. Like with the questions, we'll try to go in the same order. We'll start with Lauren.
Yeah, so, I'm really confused why this is a discussion about the future of the right.
Oh, one last thing, by the way. Lauren over here lost her Twitter account 3 days before this was recorded, I think. So, or thereabouts. So, be nice, okay? Don't be too mean.
When we have a liberal, actually she's a Democrat with one good opinion. We also have a transgender on here. I don't really think we should be giving a platform to this kind of degeneracy, which is a gateway drug to pedophilia. I absolutely disagree. We were the party of traditional marriage. We were the party that opposed gay marriage. We've always been that party. We've always been the party of family. We won handedly in 2016 without the LGBTQ vote. We started losing when we started compromising. So I'm really curious why.
I love this woman. If this woman's ideas become the GOP, which they kind of are already, they will never win. They can never win. Yes, alienate everybody. Alienate everybody, okay? Yeah, kick as many people out as possible, okay? Please, no big tent. Make the smallest tent that you can, okay? Drive yourself into irrelevancy. Please, okay? The greatest threat that we face from the right is not people like her. It's been people like Karlyn, Borysenko, Tim Pool, Sargon of Akkad, people who don't, at least in some aspects, come off like her, but lead to her direction, or at least they push people in that direction. That's been their big weapon. I mean, that's been what's worked for them. So if they consolidate and they're like, it's time, white nationalist ethno-state now, yeah, let's go for it. No gays, no bis, no lesbians, no transes, no people with more than 1/8 non-white blood in their body. Like, okay, great. Good luck with your movement, all right? We'll pick up on everyone else.
People who are libertarians. I mean, you have a party of freaks who love the free market that you can join. But don't come into our party and try to influence it, because that is how we are losing. And in case you haven't noticed, we are losing. They are now advocating for chemical castrations for children. We're spotlighting trans.
Whoa, hold on. No, they're not. Wait. I'm just debate reviewing, okay? I'm not shadow boxing against these people. I'm just here to do a debate review. No, they're not. That's just doing a little bit of a fact check, okay? Just
transgenderism at CPAC. And I am a traditional Christian conservative. I believe in family. I believe that family is the foundation of everything that this country was founded on. And no, I do not believe that we should be compromising our values and spotlighting a lifestyle that is a gateway drug to pedophilia every single time. And you cannot deny it isn't, because it's here.
Wait, what? Wait. Yeah, being gay makes you a pedophile, and you can't deny it because, like, I don't know. What? Anyway, I mean, how can you watch this and not recognize that the traditional Christian conservative is just a straight buzzline right to fascism, you know? I mean, that's the language these people use. I actually appreciate her for being so mask off, by the way. You know, she could have wasted our time and been, you know, like, and I just like Christian conservatism, and I'm just concerned about the children. Nope, she's just going right out there. That's okay, you know, being honest.
Blaire, would you respond?
Yeah, Blaire, defend the allegation that you're a pedophile.
Between you spoke sort of to gender ideology, which is definitely rampant on college campuses, definitely taking over culture.
Gender ideology?
Than just people who, as individuals, may technically be gay, lesbian, bisexual, any of the above.
Technically.
And I think that it's possible.
Notice how she didn't say transgender. Individuals may be gay, lesbian, bisexual, whatever. Dude, she's gonna sell her own identity out. God, it's so sad. She's not gonna get mad at any point during this debate. She's going to be like a meek little wallflower, letting John Doyle and that blonde lady drive right over her.
Possible to fight against gender ideology while holding true that there are going to be people that are just different in life. I definitely am not here to speak to the future of social conservatism because that's just not my lane. But as far as the party, I think that a big tent is most likely the future. I think that knowing my generation and a lot of people my age, which is mid-20s and Gen Z a little younger, I think that they voted for Trump the first and second time, or just the second time, because Trump kind of ushered the party into an era of a little more secularism. I don't think he was overtly religious. I think to an extent he was a little performative with religion and with prayer and things like that. And I think that attracted a lot of new voters. And I'm not sure that, you know, going full force religious social conservatism is really the future.
I actually know what she means here. She's actually correct in a way. Trump Trump won by a very narrow margin back in 2016. The removal of the LGBT vote for Trump probably would have turned the tide, probably would have had Hillary be president. It's true that Donald Trump would signal religious conservatism all the time, but let's be real. Donald Trump has never opened the Bible, okay? And I think that non-religious people know that. Religious Republicans can delude themselves into believing that he was some sort of chaste, Christ-like individual. But if you're an atheist and a conservative, I think it's really easy to look at Trump and not get the impression that you might have gotten from Bush, which is that he's like a, you know, madman religious nutter, you know? Because Trump never really talks about religion. He'll occasionally signal at it, but it doesn't really seem to motivate any of his behavior. You know, I don't think he cares. He doesn't look like he cares, certainly.
John, can you respond?
John.
Yeah, I think that the concept of a big tent movement is basically this sort of intra-party democracy that prevents us ultimately from being effective at actually wielding power. And this could date back even to what's referred to as the Reagan Coalition, where we tried to unite social conservatives with libertarians, with fiscal conservatives, and then we created something which ultimately didn't last in effect, where we're now on the back foot with things such as gender identity. And even now we're trying it, you know, with pandering to different minority groups, different interest groups, which will never give us more than 8% of the vote, for example. So I think that to actually try something different would be to legitimately establish a strong party with the values that we're nominally in support of and actually wielding the power effectively when we...
Wait, I really want to ask these people, I wish I was there, who in America who is not currently voting for the Republicans would vote for the Republicans if they were more racist and more homophobic? Like, what demographic is there in America where they're like, yeah, you know, if the Republican Party could just be a little more racist, you know, then I'll cast my vote for them. I don't know if they're that. I don't know if that demographic exists. The future of the Republican Party is to expand outward and try to get small margins from other groups. But yeah. Oh, somebody in chat is saying that the blonde woman actually worked for Red Ice TV, that Nazi YouTube channel, that got booted off YouTube. Is that true? Is she the vampire lady? Is that true? That's crazy. Just an actual neo-Nazi. I'm pretty sure that if you search Red Ice TV, my video on it is the top result, even from incog mode. Hold on, let me see. Red Ice TV. Can we get like a... Lana Loktef is the woman... No, Lana Loktef is the vampire lady. Do we have... What's this woman's name? Lauren? What's the name of the woman we're looking at right now? What's the name of this? Lauren Witzka. Lauren Witzka. Yeah, if we could get... Wait, are they not from Red Ice TV? People are supplying me fake news in chat. Well. Let's see, laurenwitzka.com. What can we get from this? I can tell she's going to be the most interesting character. And it looks like the website doesn't load. I don't know. Just throw fucking Triumph of the Will on a site embed and run it there.
We are given the chance instead of getting into power and then doing nothing and trying to pander to these groups thinking that we're going to own the libs and take their voting base away from them.
Yeah, Karlyn, I'm interested to hear your perspective because obviously this would be a question that would pertain to you directly since you admit that you're a liberal. And you just registered as a Republican. I mean, give us your thoughts.
I did. Well, the fact of the matter is that MAGA is not a religious movement. MAGA is a political movement. And in order to win elections, you have to win votes. The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump has never cared about gay marriage. It was never something that he was against. Dude hung out at Studio 54. Why would he care? And so I'm on the side of winning too, Lauren. I'm on the side of winning elections. The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump created a Big Tent strategy that brought 10 million more people to him in 2020 than he did in 2016. And if we go back and look at the history of the...
Wait, is this real? Lauren Witzka was a Mexican cartel drug runner? Wait, we're too many layers removed from reality for me to be able to process this right now. Is this for real? Lauren Witzka, Republican U.S. Senate candidate looking to unseat incumbent Chris Coons, who is one of the people, by the way, who voted no on keeping $15 an hour minimum wage in the COVID stimulus bill. Wait. Witzka has no qualms discussing her own journey through addiction to opioids and subsequent recovery. She said it gave her insight on the troubled underground activities involved in America's war on drugs. How do you get to be a cartel drug runner in Delaware? What? Damn. I ended up in a situation I never thought I'd find myself in. I was running drugs, actually, for the Mexican cartels. Damn. Well... So she's a degenerate too, then? Well, by her standards, yeah, she would be a degenerate. I believe in rehabilitative justice and treating drug addiction like a medical issue, but... I doubt she believes that. I doubt she thinks of herself as anything other than the exception. Is she a born again? Probably a born again.
Republican Party. And when they lost the culture war the first time, Ronald Reagan offered a big tent. He said, everyone is welcome in this big tent. He won 2 terms. George H.W. Bush followed him. The Republicans were in control for 12 years until what happened? The moral majorities tried to swoop right in and started legislating Christianity. And that is when they lost the culture war. That is when they started losing voters, when they started trying to legislate their religion the first time around. The First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion or they're prohibiting the free exercise of thereof. So it protects your right to practice your religion as much as it protects my right to practice mine.
Unfortunately, she's right here. The Republicans lose voters and lose electoral chances anytime they get too hard on the, moral police line. It just doesn't work at pulling in new voters. She's actually right. This is why people like her are more dangerous than people like John Doyle, because their effort at broadening the tent is actually way more likely to win votes for Republicans down the line. I want the Republicans to collapse into a ultra-nationalist fascist party 1/4 the size that they currently are. That would be ideal. They would be powerless. And then the Democrats would have essentially no competition. The real argument would be between progressives and corporatists. But
this is not a question of religion. If you want to do whatever you want to do in church, that's fine. Go talk to your church elders. Go talk to your deacons. Exclude anyone you want
Lauren
from
is
your
Q.
church. But
that
the
doesn't
fact of the
surprise
matter
me. Or
is
QAnon,
that
yeah.
I would really like if the Democrats didn't control everything. And in order for that to happen, we need to win. And that means building the broadest possible coalition of voters that we can. And that's what I think we should do.
Lauren, that's pretty much opposite of what you brought up and what you were saying. Could you please respond to that?
Yeah, so, Donald Trump, he did do things that made the church have to make excuses for him. His Globo Homo initiative ended up losing him a significant amount.
Just open Nazi rhetoric. The Globo Homo initiative. Oh, please let this woman be the future of the Republican Party.
Of the Christian vote, and we are the base of this party. We make up a huge portion of this party, a way bigger portion than the libertarian sector of the party, no matter how much they want to tell you. So him making those compromises is probably a big part of why we lost. We lost the House in 2018. In 2017, we had the House, the executive branch, and the Senate. And
Is there any evidence of this? Is there any evidence that Republicans lost seats because evangelical Christians were upset that they weren't being homophobic enough? I mean, legitimately, is there any evidence of that narrative whatsoever? Because from everything that I've seen, the evangelical base in America, the fundamentalist Christians, have had pretty consistent, basically 100% support for Trump. And his position on gay people has not in any way affected that. But it did drive other people away.
Still failed on conservative issues. They refused to stand up for life. They still passed a budget that actually made us forced Christian taxpayers to fund Planned Parenthood. So every vote lost on social conservatism is, we are significantly more. We are the party that was established in traditional marriage. So I'm curious when the liberals and the transgenders decided that it was their duty to come and infiltrate our party to make it successful, because we were doing just fine. We started actually losing votes when we started pandering. We lost a significant amount of our base, enough to make an effect and make a dent into the electorate by compromising our values.
Wait, how do you figure? John McCain got trashed. Mitt Romney got trashed. And then Trump went ahead and he waved a big LGBT flag on stage, and then he beat Hillary. Wait, by what metric are you claiming that open support for gender ideology hurts the Republican Party or whatever?
Values. The only way forward is to stay true to our values that we've always been and established on, and win with them. It's the weakness. People value strength over anything else. And when we started showing weakness and compromise, that's when we started losing. And I don't think that is something that we should continue. I think that we should remain.
I wish the fascists that I argued with were this overt.
The party of life, the party that celebrates family and makes it as easy as possible for Americans to get married and have children. Why would I celebrate a lifestyle that people can't reproduce? You can't reproduce. You just can't. So having...
Wait, what? Why would I celebrate a lifestyle where people can't what? What are we talking? Are we talking about gay people? What? The nice thing about the trans ideology, or whatever the fuck they want to call it, is that with the magic of trans people, actually gay couples can have kids. It's a whole new world.
Families, that is the future of the party.
I mean, directly with each other.
We started compromising. Big Tent is a lie.
Lauren, let me jump in there real fast and give Blaire a chance to respond to that.
Sure.
I think the concept of more people infiltrating a party isn't necessarily what has happened. I think that the modern left has shown its hand to such an extent that people are just being extremely turned off by it. again, being
except LGBT support is more now than it ever has been in all of American history. So no, I really like this because Blaire White, if there was even a speck of intelligence or authenticity inside of her head, would recognize that what's happening to her right now is the logical consequence of her own rhetoric. Blaire White makes video after video after video decrying gender ideology, saying that trans people are going to be predators and that trans women and cis women aren't the same, blah, 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 that trans women are predatory and blah. And now she's talking to a cis woman who's taken those ideas to the logical extreme, which is, oh yeah, Blaire, you may have excluded everyone but yourself from the Republican Party. Well, now I'm excluding you too. Yeah, that's what happens when you engage in the politics of exclusion, the politics of supremacy. You know, Blaire White cuts out every member of the trans community except for herself, and then a cis person gets to cut Blaire out. It's like, it's just such a useful idiot move, you know? But Blaire White probably knows this is the case, but also knows that it's not going to affect her YouTube AdSense payment amount, so whatever.
Republican voter. I've never had a moment where I entered the party and then had plans to change it from within.
One last thing. Blaire White has the 1 million YouTube sub plaque on her wall, in spite of the fact that she had 1 million YouTube subs for about 3 seconds before losing 1/10 of her channel subs after controversy after controversy after controversy. I think she should take this down. This right here, this is stolen valor, okay? This should not be allowed, all right? Mail it to me, okay? I'll get 1 million one day. Get it to me, okay?
I think that every American has a right to vote in any direction that they choose. And I think especially over the next 4 years of the Biden presidency, there's probably going to be a lot more people who are red-pilled, I guess is going to be the term.
Is that the 100K one?
And wanting to vote,
oh, well,
you know,
maybe
in the opposite direction of how things ended up in November. And I also would say, you know, Trump got the most votes of any sitting president in history. I think that's true, right? That's right. And I think there's a reason for that. I think what I spoke to earlier was the push towards more secularism. And I think that while social conservatives and religious conservatives still voted Trump because it was the right direction, and like you said, they did make a lot of excuses and compromises on their beliefs, I think Trump really, and Trumpism is the future of the party and the future of success. I'm also one of those people that...
Well, hold on. The two people you're talking to, John Doyle and that lady, better represent Trumpism than you do. Trump was openly and directly hostile to LGBT people, from trying to remove their medical rights to trying to push to prevent gay couples from being able to adopt. Trump is a representation of their values, though he's not as open about it.
I don't know, this might have to be edited out for YouTube, but I'm not completely convinced that the election was won by Biden by completely legitimate means. So
we can say it was borrowed.
I think, what?
We can say it was borrowed. You can't say stolen, but you can say the election was borrowed.
And so even though, yeah, Biden won, I still think Trump is the future of the right in general. So.
Okay, John, why don't you jump in there?
I think that's correct in that Trump is the future of the Republican Party. But what's interesting about that is that during his first campaign and even his second campaign, he really didn't touch on LGBT issues that much. I mean, you know, he held up the flag, I think, at a few events at the advice probably of people like Jared Kushner. But if you look at where his voters actually sit on the political...
God, man, I love these kids. Hold on.
Touch on LGBT issues that much. I mean, you know, he held up the flag, I think, at a few events at the advice probably of people like Jared Kushner. But
yeah, you know, he held up the gay flags, just probably the suggestion of the one Jewish guy that was closest to him, you know? Oh my God. Does anyone... I'm still so sad that John Doyle pussied out of talking to me that one time. Laura nods approvingly. Yeah, they're both Nazis. I'm pretty sure they're both like full-on, if they could get away with it, swastika-wearing Nazis. I gotta talk to these people one day. I got to, okay? We're not out of the game yet.
If you look at where his voters actually sit on the political spectrum, they're not the right-wing libertarians that a lot of big donors would like the party to be. They're actually basically authoritarian in the center. And so if you look at where they poll on issues such as like gay marriage versus traditional marriage, or like transgender bathroom issues, like whatever, they're all like very, I guess you'd say, authoritative and conservative in that they're in support of traditional and socially conservative policies. And so that's where the momentum in the party is. And so if you're going to come over and vote for Republicans because you agree with their positions on foreign policy or fiscal policy or what have you, that's all in fine. But what we can't do is start to compromise and say that, like, you can come over here and we're actually going to pander to you as well and give you positions at CPAC. And I think it's...
How old is John Doyle, by the way? If you're wearing a watch at whatever John Doyle's age is, you are hardcore LARPing. Wearing a watch is an extension of his horrible YouTube intro where he's like, you know, with like the black and white and the hat and something like that. Nobody, watches are now exclusively boomer status symbols, okay? I haven't worn a watch in ages. Also, you know what? I'll take a hard step. Wearing watches sucks, okay? You're wearing a weight off your wrist. It jiggles against your hand when you move it. Your arm hair gets caught in the little metal bracelet thing. And so what? So you can check the time? Oh yeah, dude. That's what I need to do. That's what I need an additional apparatus to do. I need a mechanical device strapped to my wrist to check the time. I'm never not looking at my phone. You know?
It's interesting because a lot of people that are trying to join the Republican Party or the conservative movement and then bring to light more of these like LGBT issues are basically showing their hand in that they're not actually conservative. And I'm not speaking about you guys specifically, just like the rhetoric that I deal with online, because fundamentally the idea of like LGBT issues is about the enshrinement of total equality, which is fundamentally not a conservative idea. Conservatives.
Hey, thank you, John. I really appreciate that. That's the argument that I've been making for a while. Yeah. Hey, you know, man, why can't people be this forthcoming when they talk with me? Whenever conservatives talk with me, they're like, no, we believe in real equality. You just want to make black people better than everyone else. It's like, no, but when they're just with other conservatives, they're like, yeah, you guys know, conservatism is anti-equality. God.
Believe in hierarchy and natural law and the idea that we can have total equality across the board.
Hierarchy and natural law. Why can't they be this good with me? Why can't they be this honest with me?
For different types of relationships or different types of marriages, quote unquote, is just fundamentally not a conservative idea. And so if we want to have success in the future as a party, we have to actually like maintain a strong footing on what it actually means to be conservative, which we haven't done in the last 70 years, I'd say.
Yeah, so I want to kind of tweak this a little bit to you, Karlyn, as that question that he said, right, is like, this is the question a lot of people ask on the traditional right, is that the right has been defined as being a conservative party, and that has been traditionally what it has been. Now, you say that you identify as a liberal, but you are a Republican. I would say that's more of a new development in the party. I'd say that it is, related to Trumpism, to MAGA, or as Lauren calls it, the Globo Homo movement, which I almost spit out my coffee when she said that. I find all this stuff quite hilarious sometimes.
Dude, that was so funny when she said there's a global conspiracy to promote homosexual degeneracy.
But with that being said, you know, if we're going to take the big tent party approach, right, and we're going to bring in all of these people that are of different viewpoints like yourself, what is this conservative party conserving, and how is it any different than, let's just say, being a liberal party from 10 years ago?
Well, right now,
by the way, this is literally just the Nick Fuentes, how does anal sex help the culture war argument rephrased. I mean, we're right. What we're watching right now, essentially, is a battle for conservatism between neo-Nazis and, like, reactionary conservatives, you know? Reactionary social conservatives.
not conserving anything because they don't have any power because they lost elections. But I do want to speak to John's point specifically in that he used the magic word, which is pandering. The left panders to the LGBT movement. Trump did advocate for LGBT policies. He did so by appointing the first openly gay member of the cabinet, which the left likes to forget about all the time. He did support this community.
What?
He just didn't do it in a way that was pandering. But again, like I'm a liberal.
Wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. Promoting an LGBT like candidate is the definition of pandering without substance. Wait, you know that. That's the literal definition of pandering without any real support.
Because I believe in individual liberty, individual freedom. I'm very concerned with preserving specifically our First Amendment values and all of the amendments specifically, but the First Amendment's really my jam, which again does not allow for the state to legislate based on one religion's specific values. But if we want to talk about religion, we can talk about a verse from the Bible, which is 1 Timothy 2, verses 1 through 2, which says, I urge then, first of all, the petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and for those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. And I bring that up because that is the only place in the New Testament that really touches on the relationship of Christians to government. And what does it say? It says they should pray for the people in leadership so that they may live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and holiness. So what does that mean? It means that we should be working on electing a government that allows people to practice whatever religion they want and to live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and holiness. And the only way that we can do that is by creating a broad coalition of voters who win elections. That's what we should be talking about first and foremost, is how we win elections.
Before we go, I'm going to go to John because John was sort of laughing during that. And so why are you laughing?
I was humored by the biblical substantiation for having more gay people in government. I just thought that was kind of funny. But no, I don't.
That wasn't what she was saying. Add John Doyle to the list of people who have never cracked open the Bible.
I think that, like, even you push back on what I had said about the pandering with, well, Trump appointed these people and he appointed these people, so he was actually, like, serving the interests of the community. It's interesting because, as you noted, the left will still ignore that because they control the narratives and they control the media. And so really, no matter what Trump does to pander to that, however many percent of the, 3% of the voting demographic isn't actually going to serve interests. And
Isn't it like 10% now? Or something? Hold on, wait. How many Americans are LGBT? 12%? That's pretty high. Hold on. Let's see. About 4.5% of adult Americans identified as LGBT as of a 2017 Gallup poll. But keep in mind, when you pander to LGBT people, you're not just pandering to them, you're pandering to people who support them. So if you say, yeah, I'm pro-gay rights, you're not just saying that doesn't only get heard by gay people. It gets heard by everyone who supports them, which is a majority of the American population. Hold on. Support for gay marriage USA. Public opinion of same-sex marriage in the USA. I mean, what's the total? As of 2016, 69% of Americans, nice, aged 18 to 29. Oh, wait, hold on. We don't just want we don't just want the youngins, we want everyone's opinion. A research poll conducted during 2010 found that 52% of Americans supported same-sex marriage. 2015 showed 60% did, and that was 6 years ago. Meaning that an October 2020 Public Religion Research Institute poll found that 70% of Americans supported gay same-sex marriage. Yeah, so this is actually really interesting. Even though 70% is a massive majority. That's a huge, unbelievable, base of support right there. And over here we have the state breakdown, it seems. The darkest blue is 80 to 89, then 70 to 79, et cetera, et cetera. So there are only 2 states that don't have majority favorable opinions on that. So that's cool. Now, we still have too many people who are opposed to gay marriage, but let me be perfectly clear, okay? This is how stupid fascists are. John Doyle and the blonde lady, okay? They unironically believe that being more aggressive against LGBT people would benefit Republican Party voter viability when every consecutive year brings more people who are in favor of gay marriage. You know, interestingly enough, State Republican Party platform gay marriage. When I last checked, almost every single state level Republican party, they all want to overturn gay marriage. The Republican Party is losing. They've lost the culture war. We're not going to get this sudden zeitgeist shift and all of a sudden tens or hundreds of millions of Americans change their mind on this. That's not happening. We've won. The Republican Party just isn't catching up to it. So the idea you have these fascists over here, and they're like, yeah, you know, if only we were meaner to gay people, that would definitely do it. Like, yeah, okay, sure. I mean, fuck around and find out, right? See if that works.
I just don't think that the reason Trump didn't win in 2020, assuming the election was totally legitimate, was because he didn't serve the interests of the LGBT community enough. I mean, Trump won in 2016 because of immigration, because of free trade, and because of foreign policy.
Free trade?
It wasn't at all because of social issues as it pertains to, like, you know, the interests of gays and transgenders.
Mostly
or what have
one
you.
because Hillary was
and
unpopular.
And as far as the biblical substantiation for it, I mean, it's outlined obviously, and not only in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, like very clearly that sexual immorality, which under the umbrella would be homosexuality, is wrong. But you seem to be alluding to this idea of like the individual and in their private home and things like that when you talk about, you know, people living in a free society to do what they want and not, you know, causing any problems. But what's interesting about that is that was the argument that during the movements in the 1960s and 70s, including the sexual revolution, that allowed a lot of the stuff to have a seat at the table, which ultimately would usurp power away from traditional Americans and traditional social conservatives. And I just think that that's basically a myth, because there's really no such thing as a private individual in the privacy of their own home, because you are one person. And so any actions that you take in your house are ultimately going to reflect you and how you conduct yourself in the real world. And then it's also...
Again, these are the people who say they're the party of freedom, by the way. This guy's like, actually, there really is no such thing as an individual right, because, you know, you can practice stuff in the comfort of your home, but at the end of the day, you're going to go out and affect society again, too. These people are moral crusader tyrants, you know? But we're the ones who get called the moral grandstanders? I mean, Jesus. Can you imagine any of us saying anything like that? Like, we should outlaw something because there's no such thing as individual freedom? Yeah, at least he's open about it.
Kind of misleading, because people don't want to be confided in the privacy of their own home or what have you, because that almost presupposes that it's something to be ashamed of, and people don't like that. And so what happens is then they start taking to the streets and they start having parades and they start to infiltrate education. They start to infiltrate institutions such as the American Psychiatry Association.
He's laying it all out there. Yeah, if you let gay people exist, they'll be proud openly. And what he's referring to, infiltrate the American Psychological Association, was just medical literature updating. This guy actually believes that, like, I know this. John Doyle only believes that being homosexual was removed from the DSM as a mental disorder because of, like, gay threatening them. This is like a Nazi talking point, that the only reason homosexuality was removed as a mental disorder, this is part of Globo homoism, yeah, is because gays threatened the American Psychological Association. And what he's referring to is a time when there was a protest at their facility to try to destigmatize homosexuality. So this gigantic association, the American Psychological Association, and dozens of other psychological associations were all bullied into removing homosexuality as a mental disorder, and also providing extensive medical literature as to why that is, by one protest. Okay.
And then, what was it, 2015, June of 2015, the Supreme Court decided that 5 minutes ago, marriage can be between two men. And now we're here on the back foot with issues like, hey, maybe kids shouldn't be taking prenatal hormones. Or
Can we jump into that?
Wait, prenatal hormones? Does he even know what he's talking about? Yeah, I oppose transgenderism. I don't think children should be taking horse steroids. You know, I don't really have a strong grasp on the medical, the medical science behind this, but I don't think they should be taking horse steroids. Human growth hormone is not an acceptable chemical to inject into the necks of children, giving them bulging, veiny Bane necks that allow them to snap the Batman's spine in half over their muscular knee. Okay.
Wait, Elijah, I want to jump in there because I want you like keep.
Look at Blaire White's face, by the way. She's barely keeping it together. She's like, I just got to put up with this for a little while longer, and I can go back to making $125,000 a month off AdSense. Probably nowhere near that much, actually. Probably more like $25,000. $25,000 a month off AdSense. I just gotta make it through this. I hope I die before they actually succeed in leading me to a death camp.
Just fundamentally misrepresented something I said, because I specifically chose 1 Timothy 2 verse 1 and 2 because it has nothing to do with homosexuality. That's why I specifically chose that passage. It has to do with the relationships Christians have with their government. Now, if we want to talk about how the Bible deals with homosexuality, what I would like to focus on is the fact that there are multiple different arguments for different interpretations of the Bible. I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Bible scholar, but I do know that there are multiple different interpretations for that. And instead of getting into the nitty-gritty about what it says in that area, I want to focus on the fact that, again, this is an argument for the First Amendment, for religion to not be the dictator of a political movement. If you want to talk about these issues in your church, do talk about them in your church. If you want to exclude people from your church, fine. If you want to exclude gays from getting married in your church, that is a conversation between you and your church elders. This is a conversation about a political movement.
Wait, did John Doyle just say, I don't think anybody's arguing this from the perspective of religion? Wait. Both he and the lady have been talking about a return to traditional Christian values. What are you talking about?
I think that all the arguments against the acceptance of homosexuality within the right are completely secular. It may just so happen to appeal to the base of that movement as Christians, but
Give them to me.
Lauren and I could recite several arguments that are maybe even more compelling from a completely secular perspective.
Let me.
And I hope you'll do it in church.
Let me jump in.
And I think it's really funny that she's quoting scripture as a liberal, thinking that she can use it against us as Christians. It's like,
wait, hold on, wait. Liberal Christians are a thing. Also, considering these two, again, I'm pretty sure they're just Nazis. There's no way these two are familiar with or adhere to anything even remotely close to like a Christian philosophy. Like, can you imagine what kind of brain gymnastics you would have to do to be a neo-Nazi and think, yes, I'm following the word of Jesus Christ? Yeah. Like, Jesus, you have to be so lost. There's no way. To these people, religion is an aesthetic. It's just an ability to invoke divine command. To them, God is convenient because God is the ultimate authority, and they love authority. That's where their relationship with religion begins and ends. When it comes to the fastidious, chaste, and faithful devotion to their text, that is not a thing they care about.
Oh, it doesn't apply to me, but maybe it'll work on you. And guess what? It doesn't work. Playing on our Christian compassion and making us be tolerant and acceptive of all this diversity, you know what that's left us with? Transgender pedophiles on Twitter saying that your daughter asked for it. Your little girl isn't actually a princess. She asked for it when I abuse her.
Wait, what? First of all, a Christian sneering at the concept of compassion. Second of all, what the fuck are we talking about right now? So there's so much here. First of all, she opened that by saying, you want to out-religion me? I'm the most Christ-like person here. But if you think that means I'm going to be compassionate, or whatever that means, then you've got another thing coming. Also, what are we talking about with this pedophile thing? Blaire, how you doing?
That is where we're at. So you're throwing scripture at me as a liberal is not going to work. You cannot play the Christian compassion card on us anymore. We are taking a stand for social conservatism because it matters. Social issues matter. And using God's word and manipulating it to try to get Christians to agree with you is absolutely subversive. And that's what we're struggling with in our party is subverters. How many kids saw Blaire White giving one of her videos?
Oh, no.
I know Trump is a cash cow. I know people love to talk about him to get their popularity. But how many children saw her and looked at her and said, you know what, she looks really good. I could do that too, and started transitioning. This is about the children.
Yeah, dude, that's how it that's how it works, by the way. You know, that you go online and you see a pretty lady and you're like, "Yep. I'm doing it. I'm going." Now, if you want to make this argument for real, that does happen with anime. Anime does make people girls. That is true. But that's a whole different thing.
They are coming for our kids, and we are at a point now where we're going to have to take a stand. Will the party go the way of the LGBTQ? Will the party, you know, we already have a transgender man, woman, I don't know, in California running the Federation for Republican
Very
Women.
nice.
You know, are we going to let this stand, or are we going to choose to stay with the nuclear family and support the nuclear family? Because from what I've seen from these LGBTQ activists, such as Richard Renault, who's an absolute pervert, he refuses to stand up for transgenders in the military, against transgenders in the military. He refuses to stand and make a public statement that, hey, men shouldn't be in women's bathrooms. That's because they're bought, sold, and paid for by these LGBT donors who have seen an opportunity. Trump was a cash cow. He was. If you talk about him and if you are you know, had a different look or whatever, people would throw themselves at you because it's like, oh, look how inclusive we are, but we're sacrificing everything. And when it comes down to it, I choose the life, preserving the life of little children who are 15% of them are growing up identifying as LGBTQ and transgender.
Not nearly enough. You think 15% is a lot? Check out what the next generation is going to look like. What comes after Generation Z, huh? It's going to be, oof, these people are going to be furious, okay? 100%, 110%, they're all going to be gay. Every one of them, you know? Yeah, it's pretty crazy, huh? That's the future. Imagine being this hateful. I mean, imagine being bothered this much by something that doesn't affect you or society in the slightest. I really, really hope that at some point we get these arguments John Doyle said he could levy, these secular arguments against homosexuality, because I'd love to just quickly respond to them, you know? I wonder if Blaire White, like, by the way, is Blaire White gonna defend trans people? Blaire White has always sold herself as like, yeah, I say what I say because I'm trying to present trans people in a way that conservatives will appreciate and understand. That has always been her line. Oh, why do I come off so harsh on trans people? Well, I'm just trying to make us look good to conservatives. Here it is, Blaire. You're talking to a conservative who thinks you're a pedophile, a delusional pedophile, okay? Here's your shot. Want to defend yourself, or are you just going to roll over?
And we should not be giving a spotlight to, or a platform to, people who operate in a lifestyle where 40% of them end up attempting suicide, you know, eventually.
Reminder that that statistic drops by 16/17 if you have a close family member or friend who supports you. Keep that in mind. That's about by 96%. So your shot of attempting suicide, the likelihood, drops by 96% if you have one person in your life who supports you. That's it. Just takes one.
You know, 1 in 4 children growing up.
Oh wait, 94. Hold on, wait. How? Was it 15/16 or 16/17? No. Stop. Yeah, 94. Okay.
Struggling with LGBTQ gender dysphoria end up with depression, drug abuse. I think it's 80% of men have a higher risk of HIV. You know, why would I support that lifestyle? Why would I even make excuses for that lifestyle or try to use?
I want to give Blaire a chance to respond.
Really funny, by the way, that she's coming at this from the drug abuse angle, lady. That's really interesting to me. You know? Hey, Like I said, this is conservatism, okay? Fuck you, got mine. Oh yeah, I ran drugs. Oh yeah, I was a felon. I was a drug addict. Oh yeah, of course. But I'm different. I fixed me. You know, I fixed me. You, on the other hand, you are essentially bad.
To your statements real fast, because I know Blaire has a hard out. We haven't heard from Blaire.
She looks miserable.
On the statement of Lauren said, Lauren is talking about, you know, the subversion in the party, the idea that your transitioning,
I just want to specifically address what Lauren said about children maybe watching my YouTube videos and thinking that they can be like me.
I bet you that Blaire White's video, oh God, I know what's about to happen. Blaire White is going to be like, listen, in all my videos, I talk about how hard it is to be trans. I have a medical disorder, and I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. So I don't know how kids can watch my video and think that this is what they should be, that I'm struggling with this, and that this isn't something they should want. So this isn't on me. She's going to say, I'm almost positive that's going to be the line, okay?
Me or transition or whatever. I don't really know how much you know about me, but I'm probably the most vocal anti-children transitioning person on the internet. It's what I'm. Right. I let you speak.
The best thing you can do for us is grow out your mustache and tell people not to live like you. That is the best thing that you can do to help us.
Defend yourself.
Christ love, wafting off Lauren. Christ love.
Go at it, guys.
I think actually to close on the biblical point, the first thing I did want to say is the vindication of Lauren's point comes very clearly in the fact that we have a liberal on here who is personally a liberal and ideologically a liberal, though feels as though she can manifest that by voting for Republicans. And so I think that really speaks to how far our party has deviated in the last 50 years to where now there are people who are personally liberal.
The host is on the side of these two, by the way, laughing off the term Globo Homo and like allowing direct personal attacks to be juxtaposed along like social arguments. The host is 100% with these two ideologically.
Who feel as though their views can be reflected by voting for Republicans. And to close on the biblical topic, there's this misconception that like Jesus just said that we should be like vaguely nice to each other. As far as judgment goes,
no. Jesus didn't just say be vaguely nice to each other. Jesus was fucking committed to being nice to each other, okay? Dude was out there foot washing, okay? Dude was out there talking with the prostitutes, all right? Dude, this was not vague kindness, okay? His philosophy, the philosophy of Christ, was radically kind. It was radically empathetic. But these people don't know, and they don't give a fuck about it, by the way. They don't even know the slightest thing about religion outside of the bits and quotes they can use to attack minorities. That is it. That is all they know about it. They don't give a fuck about religion. I would honestly be surprised if a lot of these Christian conservatives even went to church, frankly. Their religiosity is as phony as Trump's, you know? That the Bible is a bludgeon, just a weapon that you can use to garner public support and attack people you don't like. But in terms of actual personal moral commitment, nah. That'd be too hard. And it would require a lot of introspection, too.
We are called as Christians not to judge people individually. Like, we cannot look at you and make a moral declaration like you are good or you are bad. That's not our position. However, we are called quite explicitly to judge the actions of people so as to maintain a moral and civilized society. And so we need to keep that social pressure.
Wait, we can't make moral judgments, but we have to make judgments to maintain a moral and civilized society? Wait, what? It's God's domain to judge people morally. We all live on his earth, and it is but his will to decide. But also, we need to seize political power to maintain a moral world. What are we talking about?
Pressure on people like you actually can't behave in this way or that way, and that's how we maintain a civilized and virtuous society.
Hype train, let's go!
Quite explicitly.
Okay, Blaire, can you please respond?
All right, I never finished my point, so I would just like to say,
Blaire.
As I said earlier,
defend.
Whether anyone on this panel likes it or wants to acknowledge it, there is a really huge chunk of LGBT people who are very much against ideas like children transitioning, like
she's not going to defend herself.
Trans women in biological women's sports.
She's not going to defend herself.
All of the ideas that are, hot talking points, but they're very real at the same time. So I don't think many kids would look at my YouTube videos and want to do anything like me, because I explicitly have been very known for saying that it's not a glamorous lifestyle, that it's difficult, and that children shouldn't be allowed to transition because it can often be a mistake that really damages.
How does he know?
I don't know. I just felt like that was a false premise. And again, I would like to agree with Karlyn on the sense.
It wasn't a false premise. Like I said, if you want to help us, tell people not to live like you.
That people would watch my videos and come to that conclusion when I say not to, and I advocate against it. I think that there are a lot of trans people online.
She's such a cuck. She's such a cuckold, Blaire. Holy shit, Blaire. Blaire, I get you're a grifter, but oh my God, this woman is like calling you a subhuman pedophile who should grow out a mustache. You're just like, well, I tell my kids it's hard to be me, so they're not gonna. Dude, Blaire! I know that people in chat want to feel bad for Blaire or be like sad for her, but this is the grave she dug, you know? Blaire is a huge content creator with a lot of influence, and a lot of people have been hurt by the shit she says and does. This is the direct consequence of people like her, okay? This is violence that she's inflicting on herself. She's choosing not to be confrontational right now because it would interrupt her grift. She does not care. Yeah, but empathy, have empathy for the people who are hurt by people like Blaire White and the blonde lady attacking her, okay? Blaire White dug this grave for herself, all right? Now, hey, I want to be forthcoming, by the way. I would love it if I could talk to Blaire about this, because I would love to talk to her about this. That would be great. And hey, Blaire, you know, you talk about the left being uncivil. I won't say any of the shit towards you that this lady has. You seem comfortable talking to her in spite of the fact that she has been crueler to you in 27 minutes than I have ever been on my channel, but you blocked me on Twitter. I doubt you ever blocked her. Well, she doesn't have a Twitter anymore now. I would love to talk to you about this, okay? Like, you gotta realize you're selling yourself out right now, right? Like, is this the life that you want to live? You want to look back on this and be like, oh yeah, I remember that fun time where I allowed my identity to be shit on by people and then crawled up to them and begged for their permission to be included in the movement anyway? Jesus.
You could argue maybe someone looks at their videos, children, and wants to do a certain thing, but I'm very much against it. If anything, people who support children transitioning or kids who want to transition hate me. So I also would like to say,
it's normal. That's normal. That's not nothing special.
I do agree with Karlyn in the sense that, you know, if you guys do want to wield power and enact the socially conservative changes that you want, you do have to win elections, and telling people that they don't have a place to vote in your direction or that they don't have a place in your party isn't the way to win elections. So
how much worse than this than what Shapiro said to her, really? Shapiro was downright civil compared to this. Shapiro was like, well, pronouns are biological, so while I, in my own head, won't use biological pronouns with you, I recognize there's a social utility to referring to socially acceptable pronouns when I'm speaking with you in public or referring to you to other people. Ben Shapiro never even came close to this level of cruelty, because I don't think that Ben Shapiro is this cruel, frankly. This woman would be like out there guarding the fucking lines from the trains to the camps, you know? This woman is very much further in it than Ben Shapiro is. Keep a perspective on how bad people are relative to each other, and also make sure to keep up the hype train. Love you guys.
I guess if the topic is the future of the right, I think the future of the right's already settled. It's Trump, and that's not an ideology that tells people they're not allowed to come over. If anything, it's an ideology that welcomes people to come over. So
okay,
it's kind of already over, actually.
Before we jump any further, I want to let you guys know something. It's very important. As you can see, a lot of people in this country disagree right now. We cannot seem to come to common ground on a lot of things, which is why people see the instability in the stock market. We had things like the power grid fail here in Texas, which is why I want to tell you about My Patriot Supply, which you can find.
Oh my God. Really? You're going to do 2 ad reads in one group debate that's less than an hour long? I could get away with so much more. I need to be way more shameless, okay? I need to get a sponsor and just absolutely sell the hell out of them, you know?
.com to get your savings and get your food to this Trumpianism. And John wanted to respond to that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, as we talked about earlier with where the people who voted for Trump, that coalition, sit on the political spectrum, Trump may or may not have touched on this issue to either side very much, but they still fundamentally sit at the center economically and authoritatively socially. And so if you look at where those people poll on issues pertaining to, LGBT issues, they're all basically socially conservative. And so maybe Trump didn't come out and support those or be as against those as he should have been to really like wheel those people in. But basically it's ambivalent as far as that's concerned. And so what we do know is that Trump taking time to address those issues, thinking he's going to win those people over, hasn't actually worked. I mean, even his support in 2016 or 2020 with LGBT people was not like statistically significant, nor was there a statistic improvement.
Wait, hold on. That is definitely not true. Didn't Trump get way more LGBT support than Romney did and McCain before him? I'm pretty sure there was an uptick in that support for Donald Trump, was there not? I'm almost positive there was. I'm incredibly confident that there was. By the way, just did some quick Googling. Remember, the Republican Party is not representative of the American people. According to a public opinion of transgender rights in the United States, a 2017 Ipsos International Survey series, which I guess was published in 2019, whichever year it's from, 73% of respondents thought trans people should be protected from discrimination, as part of a protected class. 71% think they should be allowed to have gender-affirming surgery. And 51% actually want the U.S. to do more to support and protect transgender people. So not just affirming the current position in some states, but to do more. So once again, we are winning the culture war. This is not changing. We are going to keep winning it. As time goes on, trans and gay and whatever people are going to become more and more accepted. These people choose irrelevancy and hate over victory. But that's the fascist motto, isn't it? When has a fascist ever chosen victory? They grind their movements into dust in less than a decade, usually. They're allergic to victory.
Statistically significant improvement. And so when any political operation is happening, you have a certain volume of discussion and resources that you can expend on different things. And so if you're going to waste those resources, which it is a waste on people who aren't going to vote for you anyway, because they've basically been brainwashed into hating you because we don't control the narratives and we don't control the institutions, the place that you want to be pouring those resources into would be on the issues that you won the election based on in the first place, which would be immigration, which would be free trade, and which would be foreign policy. It has very...
Vosh, quick question. Could it potentially be beneficial to the left for people on the right to be this mask off? Yeah, 100%. I want to be really clear. We benefit from this right here. This open hate is scary. I'm not denying it, but it's also incredibly polarizing. And because our country is relatively institutionally stable, I mean, more so than a lot of countries around the world, we actually benefit from a more hateful but proportionally smaller conservative demographic. Because the more hateful they are, the harder it is for them to appeal to a broader base. Right now, the Republican Party is hanging on to a hair's width of relevance. I mean, they are really, really close to that edge. And without the Electoral College, even that goes away. Wasn't Trump rather mask off? How is this any different? Again, you have to keep perspective. Did Trump ever look at a trans person and say, the best thing that you could do, pedophile, is grow out a mustache and tell children to never be like you? No. Listen, Trump is mask off, but there's always another mask, okay? And as bad as Trump was, he wasn't an open neo-Nazi, which these people basically are. So the more open they are with stuff like this, the harder it is for them to pull more people over. Again, think of all of these skeptical centrists who got moved over to the right in 2016, 2017, 2018, Think of all those people. They wouldn't have been moved over if they were watching YouTubers who were like, yeah, gay is degenerate and these trans pedos are destroying Christian values. They wouldn't have been moved over by that. They probably would have felt that was lunacy. They got moved over by milquetoast anti-SJW criticism, and then that fed into more and more extreme right-wing views. But opening with this being your first exposure to conservatism, this is deranged. This is lunacy. An average person won't buy into arguments like this at all. If anything, Karlyn and Blaire White would both look way better than these two do in comparison, So I like the existence of these people. I do. I think it's beneficial to us. I want to argue with them more because it's kind of fun,
Little to do with appealing to different interest groups and hoping that they come over, whether that's black people or gay people or transgender people. These are all things that Jared Kushner lobbied for because he thought that they would be effective in creating the sort of big...
God, again, I mean it, man. Black people, gay people, these are all those things that Jew, was pushing for. But us, we're different. We don't want to focus on these people. It unironically reads like a pull thread. Jesus Christ.
Big tent movement, which obviously didn't help him too much throughout the administration, but that also wasn't why he was elected in the first place anyways. Because if you look, even demographically, the people who are most likely to vote for Trump are also most likely to be socially conservative. So it's very clear that if we want to keep Trumpism going, if we want to keep the Trump train going, then the way to do that isn't by appealing to these issues, it's by appealing to the issues that got him into power in the first place. And then when we take the country back, then we can have these other debates once we actually wield power. But right now we're just getting totally crushed, so we don't have time to waste resources on anything that hasn't been proven to be effective.
Karlyn?
Blaire has her hand up. Blaire has talked less.
I was just going to say, I actually completely agree with John that pandering to minority groups definitely didn't do Trump.
This makes me super sad as a non-binary person. What would you say to people like me? Support for non-binary people has literally never been greater than it is today, okay? We're looking at outliers, and the fact that they're being this open with it is, again, really to our benefit. Somebody in chat is saying that the blonde woman went on a Holocaust denier podcast run by a guy who's buddies with David Duke. Interesting. I think that about fits.
Any favors. I think that the media completely controls the narratives. It doesn't matter. He could save, a little person of color who's also trans out of a burning building, and the media would not care. But that's all the more reason to, I don't think you have to pander. I think you just don't have to try to exclude people. I think that just loses votes.
Spineless.
And so
she won't defend
it just
herself.
Goes back to, you guys can't wield any of this power you say you want to wield if you're not going to win elections. You're just not. And I don't know. I just think it's just kind of silly to go on about this argument that certain people need to be excluded, because all it's doing is telling people not to vote for you.
I actually agree with Blaire.
If it keeps going back to we need to win, saying you can't vote for us or you don't have a place in the party I don't see the winning tactic of that. I mean, I don't think that the social conservative movement is going to necessarily grow stronger to the point where you wouldn't need. And also what you said about LGBT votes not having a statistical raise, I believe they did double. Obviously, it's still a small community, but it did double from 2016. So clearly there is a shift happening. I think it was 14% in 2016 and probably 1% every other election before that. And it was 28% in 2020. So yeah, minority groups don't necessarily win elections now. Over time, they very well could.
Can I just let me move to Lauren?
900,000 votes. Yeah. 900,000 people nationally came out from the LGBTQ community and voted for President Trump. We've done the math. It was absolutely not beneficial for all the money we spent when we could have been going after the working class, the white working class, the Christian.
Damn, this sounds like what I hear from those Nazbol types too. 900,000 is a lot. That's enough to swing states by far. Yeah, white working class, by the way. Subtle, by the way.
Christian working class.
I do agree.
Religiously, we spent way too many resources. So the lie that we have to be a big tent in order to win, and we have to be inclusive. Like I said, there is a party for free market capitalism and transgenderism and liberalism. That's called the Libertarian Party. Why don't you join them? We do not need you. You are doing nothing but hurting us. You are hurting the Christian vote by creating a platform for yourself saying, this is Trumpism. This is
Again, this logic is completely delusional. There are no Christian evangelicals who aren't voting for Trump right now because Trump is too pro-LGBT, who would only vote for Trump if he was less so. This woman is delusional. I mean, just utterly lost.
Trumpism. We should have never glorified this in the first place. While we are losing everything on social issues, we lose every single time.
Split the vote.
We are influencing, public opinion matters, and we are influencing our own elected officials to not take a stand on issues such as transgenderism, LGBTQ education, drag queen story hour. They are saying nothing. We have created a cowardly elected class within our party, so it is not helping us. There is absolutely no electoral benefit. There's no social benefit, and if you, like I said, if you are a gunslinging, freedom-loving person, absolutely, we'd love to have you come vote.
Freedom-loving. Interesting. Is that a thing your camp in this argument is in favor of? The freedom, that's a thing you're pushing for real hard here? Because all you have been advocating for is restriction and crackdowns on things that you don't like.
For us, but should you be having a say in influencing the party? Should you have an opinion that, you know, like Jared Kushner was the one who did push the LGBTQ agenda, mass migration. And those were the things that, you know, mass migration was something that Trump addressed in 2016. That's what got the white working class out to vote for him. You know, so there are plenty of votes out there for us to get, but it doesn't come with compromising. We don't get those 15 million unregistered Christian voters to get them registered to vote and out to vote for us by glorifying the LGBT community.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. I don't know why Lauren's so against the First Amendment. I think the First Amendment's pretty great. I also think the Second Amendment's pretty great too, because it protects the first. And these are the things that we should actually be conserving, and we can't do that if we can't win elections. The fact of the matter is, Lauren...
You know it's bad, by the way, when you find yourself in a panel and Karlyn Borysenko is actually the most reasonable sounding person here. Unironically, of the 5 people who are present in this call, Karlyn is far and away the most composed and intelligent, which is desperately sad, but I mean, we all have our moments. I have to say, by the way, it's really interesting to me. You can chew on this if you want to. Karlyn Borysenko has criticized their political positions a few times now, but it's really, really interesting. At no point has Karlyn advocated for the exclusion of people like these two from the movement. I mean, they're basically marching around here, Sieg Heiling all over this call, and Karolyn's like, no, we need a big open tent so everyone can come in. But she doesn't seem to be interested in excluding such obviously hateful people, which makes you wonder about her priorities and wonder about how effectively even moderate conservatives can keep neo-Nazis out of their movement. It seems like there's no fight in either of these two. They're only arguing for what they argue for on like a pragmatic, we need to diversify the vote basis. But they don't seem to be outraged or disgusted, really, by the positions held by the two on the right. Just interesting is all.
That every single problem you have with the LGBT movement right now, from giving hormones to kids, medical transition, whatever, this was all caused by the right losing the culture war 30 years ago when they tried to legislate their religion. That is why we're currently experiencing this today. The only way to come back and conserve whatever it is you want to conserve is by winning elections. And the fact of the matter is, it's not just people like Blaire who vote based on LGBT issues. I am straight as an arrow. I'm married to a dude. Between the two of us, I'm the one that's actually married with the family. And so I will say that I absolutely will not vote for a party that treats LGBT people like they are subhuman. I won't do it. Part of the reason that Trump won my vote is because he does.
Okay. This is a little bit of the moral outrage that I was referring to and saying she didn't have. Okay. Now she's about to say that Trump wasn't anti-gay, which is not true. Trump did roll back LGBT protections, but
not care. He promotes people. He doesn't promote sexualities.
Okay, so first of all, you're using issues again on me that you don't apply for yourself. So Carl here was the first one to celebrate me being
Karlyn
banned from Twitter. She was so excited to see that my voice had been silenced. So freedom of speech for thee, but not for me. Absolutely. So, you know,
Twitter bans aren't freedom of speech. Dr. Carl, that's really good. I'll keep that one in mind.
Disregard that opinion.
Well, I celebrated that you were banned on Twitter because you repeatedly tweeted that my husband should be deported, Lauren. And
he's
now
an illegal alien.
Thrilled. No, he's not. He has a permanent green card. I am now thrilled that I don't have to hear you call for my husband to be deported on Twitter, who has had a permanent green card for the last 6 years.
He came into our country illegally. He broke our laws. He did not do it correctly.
And married an American. How lucky is he?
Go back. He has to go back. I'm sorry,
no, he doesn't, honey. That's not how laws work. It's not how laws work. I'm sorry. I have a husband and you don't, Lauren. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Wait, This lady in the top right doesn't have a husband? And she's speaking publicly? That can't be Christ. Wait, hold on. Does traditional family values include letting women talk back against others or be adults without being married? No, hold on, wait. Oh, I'm checking my imaginary Bible in front of me. I feel like you might be violating a couple of those traditional family values yourself over there. John, are you married?
Anyone want to respond? You guys can keep going. Keep going. Blaire's like,
Oh, you want me to keep going? Oh, well, I'm in early recovery. So, I've only been clean 3 years. Myself getting in toxic relationships is what kept, me relapsing. So, I'm just doing it with wisdom this time. I'm dating. But my intention is to get married and have children eventually, but I certainly will not be marrying an illegal alien.
I'd love to be sympathetic to her journey, but considering the fact that if she had political power, she would probably just lock up drug addicts, I don't care. I don't care. Nah, sorry.
To give him his green card. So, I hopefully will find an American man. I will find an American man.
Lauren, you'll be pleased to know we had several interviews with ICE and they blessed our marriage.
Really? Even though he wasn't illegal and didn't come the right way?
That's a permanent green card, honey. Permanent green card.
We're gonna have to reinvestigate ICE.
Let's go to Blaire.
But you know what? Here's the thing though. Like, we can keep talking about
Who has their mic open? Stop! Fucking mute mic. If you're use push to talk. How? Okay.
All she wants to talk about it, but the fact of the matter is, my husband ain't gonna win us an election. Votes are going to win us elections. I don't know why we're so focused on these issues that are driving people away from voting for things like conserving the First Amendment, conserving the Second Amendment. That's really what I would like to have the conversation.
You don't even like the First Amendment. You don't even like it. So why are you?
You celebrated my Twitter ban after I wanted your husband to be deported. You don't support the First Amendment.
Blaire wanted to chime in. Let's cut. I'm going to cut you guys off. I'm cutting you guys off. Blaire, I want to. Blaire, let me hear what you're going to say.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that there's a little bit of a tit for tat here, but I will say, Lauren, you said that Karlyn was celebrating you being deplatformed. I did see that, and I personally disagree with Karlyn for doing that. I don't like people being banned off Twitter or deplatformed. But I will say you opened this up with saying that I shouldn't be given a platform and that I shouldn't have a say in the party.
Yeah, Lauren opened with that. Lauren was like, you shouldn't even be allowed to show yourself publicly because you're a degenerate and you're making children degenerate. Like, that was her opening line.
So I think there's a little bit of it to go around. I think everyone should probably just respect each other a little bit more.
No, I didn't say you should be deplatformed from your voice. I was saying that you should not have a platform within a party who stands for traditional marriage.
No. You can't call a person anti-First Amendment because they celebrated your Twitter ban. They'd be like, oh no, actually, I just meant you should be excluded from our political movement, not that you should be banned off YouTube. Fucking weasel.
Because that is just opposing itself. It makes no sense. Also, when you cannot deny that your people are the ones that are reading dressed in drag to kids at our taxpayers' expense. And I'm just curious, to what extent am I going to be forced to participate?
Wait, what?
The ones that are reading dressed in drag to kids.
So cross-dressers and drag queens aren't trans people. And also,
at our taxpayers' expense. And I'm just...
There was no expense. The drag queen story hour that she's referring to happened like a couple of times, and it was from volunteers. There wasn't an expense. What are we talking about?
Curious, to what extent am I going to be forced to participate in your fetish or delusion while our children are being targeted for pedophilia openly? So, no, I don't want to give a platform.
Utterly delusional. Utterly deranged.
Here's the thing. There is...
Go ahead, Blaire, sorry.
Okay, there is... And I think this maybe is something that you might not be aware of, or people who are not, closer.
No spine on Blaire. She's not going to say shit.
Knowing the inner workings, that there's actually a huge divide from people who.
It doesn't matter. It's a package deal. It all comes together.
Blaire, this is the end consequence of what you do. You spend your entire public advocacy arguing that the trans community is full of essentially degenerate predators. You'll misgender people who are less pretty than you. And now you won't even stand up to defend yourself against a Nazi. You're not even pro yourself. You're anti yourself too. You just don't like trans people very much, Blaire, including maybe even especially yourself. I don't know how anybody could take abuse like this the way she is if it wasn't stemming from some kind of self-hatred. This is the only possible explanation. Jesus.
I disagree. I think that there's a huge divide within the community as from people who do support things like Drag Queen Story Hour, one of the things I've been very vocal against children transitioning. So I don't think it's a monolith. I don't think any group is a monolith. The same way that the right wing is not a monolith of just people who believe, in a biblical, definition of conservatism and people who don't. And I think that there's a really big missed opportunity for the right in the sense that I think LGBT people are actually the best warriors against gender ideology. And seeing children being read to by
actually, you have to keep us around. We're actually the most effective at fighting the other transes. You need us. Just God. It's legitimately sad. Like
half-naked drag queens and children going under.
They're not. I'm pretty sure that Drag Queen Story Hour, all those people were dressed up to the nines. I don't think they were half naked.
Hormone therapy at 12. I think that people who are from that community coming and speaking out against it do a lot better of a job at trying to stop it than people who are on the outside. Because at the end of the day, Lauren, you could make it part of your platform to be against those things. And even Karlyn, you guys could talk about it, but it's simply the way it works. It's never going to be heard as loud as someone like myself or a gay person coming out of the community. And so I think that
what she's essentially doing right now is fighting, to be the last person in line to the death camp. She's not even arguing against the fundamental beliefs that this Nazi has. She's not arguing against the idea that trans people are degenerate or pedophiles. What she's saying is, okay, sure, maybe we are, but you need me because I can push other people away from us. Make sure I'm the last one in the mass grave. Like, this is like next level pick-me shit. It's unfathomable. I really genuinely wonder how aware she is of what it is she's doing right now. Because this is beyond me. Like, she won't even argue to defend her own humanity, like her validity as an individual. It's not even on the plate for her.
When you have, I would venture to say, the majority of LGBT people who disagree with those things, when they feel like they can't speak out against it, because what happens is the right will say, okay, you can speak out against it, but you still get no voice in the party. You're still disgusting. You're still a freak. They don't want to, then they end up staying on the left. And it makes it appear as though all of us agree with those things. But in reality, oftentimes we feel politically homeless, like we don't have a voice over here. And we have to pretend to be leftists or pretend to be along with these things because we don't have a political home.
Well,
so again, I think,
well,
so I just want to, one second, just one last thing. So again, I think just in general, the overall point of what I think is that you don't benefit from turning people off from voting for you. You just don't.
Okay. Well, listen, here's the deal. Your whole lifestyle really opens the door to everything that you claim to stand against. Now, I'm not really sure if you really stand against the transitioning of children or drag queen story hour, or if it's just public opinion is against you. Or if public opinion is against you because public.
By the way, in this case, the Nazi is right. If you accept and validate the existence of a trans person, it necessarily follows that you validate the premises that I support. She's right on this. Blaire is focusing on the wrong argument. Blaire's argument is that you can draw a line between the good and the bad transes, and that she is the one good trans, and everybody else is bad, and she's the only one who shouldn't be led to the mass grave. But that argument will never sail with somebody like this Nazi chick. Ever. What Blaire White needs to be doing is saying, yeah, this all is a package deal, and it's all good. But she can't do that, because that's the opposite of her shtick. You know? She can't do that because that completely negates everything that she stood for years. So she just has to take this abuse over and over again.
Like, opinion matters. I don't really know what's really in your heart, but when you walk out a lifestyle that introduces that to children, I mean, it's there. It is your people. It is part of, that's part of the package deal. It is spearheaded by the LGBTQ movement. Just because you take a normal stance on something, everybody should be opposed to grown men going into young girls' locker rooms or bathrooms.
Damn, well, if only that was actually happening, I'd get real mad at it, but,
that doesn't make you special. It makes you normal, and just because you dress up as a woman does not mean that you have a special opinion on something that everybody should oppose.
Okay,
except the majority of Americans don't oppose it. The majority of Americans support it, actually. So
I'm not claiming to be special. I'm just
she really can't defend herself
online. And what I'm just trying to tell you is that it's a lot more people than you think within the community, the LGBT community, that agree with me and think the exact same way. Not the exact same way, but on the more radical ideas like children, everything to do with children.
Close mic.
It's all the same.
I mean, you can sit here and you can insist that it's a monolith and insist that we all think that way and that it is a package deal, but it's really not, especially considering gender ideology and how it has manifested now and taken over culture and been popularized. It started it started well after the existence and acknowledgement of gay people or transgender people. Transgenderism used to be a purely medical issue that was treated on a purely medical basis. Gender ideology that we see on college campuses and that oftentimes it's communists spreading it, that came much, much later. So I think
this is, of course, completely incorrect, by the way. Deviances or divergences from what we consider to be the traditional gender binary are thousands of years old, whereas a medicalized perspective on trans people is a few decades old. So this is completely and factually not true by any means.
I think that they are two separate things.
Okay, so let me I have to move the conversation on because I know that Blaire again has a hard out. And so I kind of want to give Karlyn and John a chance to respond to this. So as we're wrapping this up with the big tent, with the idea of the place with gays, I don't want to get your opinion wrong, Lauren. So if you can give me a brief response to this, do you believe that we should exclude the
Hold on, I got a DM from somebody on Discord. Vosh, she pointed out how Blaire may have just Googled her results so it would look like she came up conservative/lib right. So I decided to go back to her video and answered with what she answered. First of all, she skipped a question about abortion in her video. It's the first question on the third page of the quiz, and she skipped over it in her video. Since I wasn't sure on the answer, I went to agree with it since it was the middle. It's the typical conservative take. And you were right. Even with agreeing with it, she placed lib left. So I have very little sympathy
LGBT influence from the right wing and reestablish sort of like a Christian party. Can you give me your summary in under a minute?
Yeah, so certainly. In conclusion, the LGBTQ community has no platform, should have no influence on the party that was.
Do you think Blaire is a bad person? Yeah. I think Blaire is the like the absolute definition of a rat who would sell out every single other trans person if she could be the last one to be shot in the back of the head. I 100% think that, yeah. I don't care how sad she looks when she gets told she's like a degen or whatever by a neo-Nazi. She has no interest in actually fighting against these ideas whatsoever. She just wants to be the last one to be hurt for them. And by the way, I want to be really clear about this. Really perfectly crystal clear. If we redid this debate panel, except instead of Blaire White, it was like a liberal, progressive, communist trans lady, and that trans woman argued against her, Blaire White would laugh every time she got dumpstered. When this lady came out with the pedophile grow a mustache line, Blaire White would probably clap and say, sweetie, maybe that would be better for you, or something horrible like that. Blaire White's involvement in this is completely a matter of a thin veneer of self-defense, and that's it. That's it. It begins and ends at that. The sad thing is, Blaire, unironically, your audience is not entirely conservatives. If you stepped back for a minute and, like, stopped this whole bullshit, you would still have a sizable political audience off of, like, center skeptics. You can be skeptical of, like, the trans puberty blocker kid thing without being this much of a cuckold. Like, you can step back, you know? You don't have to be this far gone. You can slide back towards a position closer to the ones you actually hold, and you would still have a large audience.
Is based on traditional marriage. Opposing gay marriage still is our platform. That hasn't changed, but we are going to have to vote on it again soon. You know, are we going to be the party moving forward? Are we going to be the party that compromises on our values that got us this far? Or are we going to stand firm on issues like family, restoring the nuclear family, getting dads back into the home, re-legalizing conversion therapy, which they have stripped parental rights, where children now can't even go to get therapy if they choose to change their mind? Well,
yeah, re-legalizing conversion therapy. Yep, that's we can just leave it at that, I guess.
Struggling with gender dysphoria, you know, the only path forward with this LGBTQ agenda is stripping parents of their rights. Parents are being villainized for not wanting to transition their children. They're having their children taken away from them. You know, so it is not a lifestyle that should be included in the Republican Party, and it's not something we need either. Electorally, it hurts us.
Okay, Lauren, and then Karlyn, let me give you, so in under a minute, can you wrap up your conclusion on this?
You know,
as well?
John Doyle really didn't say anything this whole conversation. That's surprising. You know, surrounded by women, maybe a little meek, not very tradcon alpha male on his part, but you know, we all have our off days.
Yeah, this is about attracting as many people to the movement as we possibly can. I would like everyone who believes in freedom of speech, who believes in protecting the Second Amendment, who believes in protecting all our individual liberties to come to the movement. And I think it's rather ironic that people like Lauren talk about treasuring the traditional family when she was campaigning on Twitter to have my husband of almost 10 years deported. So protecting traditional family, but break up mine.
Like, this woman is evil. Like, the way she smiles, like, genuinely like a sociopath or something. Like, yeah, bye-bye, honey. Like, yeah, legitimately like a morally reprehensible person. I've said this before, but I got a lot more utility from the world and ability to understand things when I realized that sometimes political opinions really do just make you evil. That there's not really that much nuance to it. I used to think when I was in high school, it was like, actually, no, there's nuance and shades of gray everywhere. No, there isn't. If there are any shades of gray here, there's very marginal gray shading on the left side of this screen. On the right, there is nothing. There is no gray. There is no ambiguity. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I would like to welcome everyone into this movement, including my husband, who will be starting the process of becoming a U.S. citizen a little later on this year. And when he does, he will be voting in the MAGA movement, just like me.
John?
Even though it leads to people like this, by the way.
I think that Lauren summarizes it pretty well. We're not saying that we're going to turn these people away. We're just saying that their issues can't be represented in our party platform because their issues fundamentally represent something that is deviant from the traditional American society.
That's turning people away. If you're saying you're a degenerate pedophile and we're going to re-legalize conversion camps for you, that's turning people away. You're not saying you're deprioritizing their movement. You're saying you're actively opposed to their existence. Big difference there.
And these allusions to the Constitution as though it's an argument about religion, I think, is kind of disingenuous because, like I said earlier, Lauren, I mean, speaking for myself, I was against these sort of issues before I really came into the faith. But I think it's important to put that into context, that like when the Constitution was written, you know, you mentioned the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, even the founding fathers like Thomas Jefferson, who would now be considered to be like the most radically pro-freedom of the founding fathers. When he was governor of Virginia, he wanted the punishment for sodomy to be the equivalent to the punishment for rape, because these were always considered to be deviant acts that were against and went against the social fabric of the nation and the moral fabric of the nation. So if you want to come vote for Republicans nominally, that's great, but you can't have your issues represented because all of your issues, whether that be two men getting married or it's just like it all represents something that is the total enshrinement of equality, which is fundamentally a left-wing idea, and it always has been.
That's my
and
argument.
Blaire, give us your conclusion.
I guess my conclusion would be that this is all kind of silly. You have half the country unconstitutionally locked down, people dying alone right now, can't go to funerals.
Not unconstitutional in any way, shape, or form, but
people out of work, like the entirety of the country living with almost no dignity. Out of all of a sudden, we have lockdowns and just so much stuff to worry about. We're bombing Syria, you know. I can't wrap my head around this being even remotely close to the most important conversation happening on the right or anywhere. And I think that it's also kind of just over. I guess I'm just kind of saying what I've already said before, but Trumpism is the future, and Trumpism isn't, unfortunately, what you've seen with Lauren and with John today. And
no, you pretty much have, actually. Blaire, people like you have been an open part of the Republican Party for a long time. People like them only became open parts of the Republican Party relatively recently, certainly at a national level. At the state level, there's always been a, union between basically neo-Nazis and the Republican Party. Remember David Duke's run back in the day? Nearly won a governor seat? Or what? It was governor, right? Yeah, governor seat. But like nowadays, the mask is off. They're much more prominent, and their ideas are legitimized to a greater extent. And that's Trumpism right there.
And they're certainly free to advocate for an increase or a rise in social
Duke was a KKK member, right? He was the KKK member.
A really big chunk of my generation, which are going to be the people running things very soon, and they already are. What Karlyn said earlier about we grew up in a time where we were very, very turned off from social conservatism, and a lot of the more radical ideas that you're seeing now in regards to gender ideology, wokeness, it is the pendulum effect of social conservatism. It is. It was, I grew up in a time where when I was 5 years old, I was naturally feminine, getting beat up by little Christian kids in my school. And that was kind of the era that we were in, and things changed and people got disgusted with that. And the pendulum is now to the point.
A part of the Constitution is she even referring to when she says lockdowns are unconstitutional? Do you think conservatives know what the Constitution contains? Do you think any of these fuckers have read the Constitution? She doesn't know.
Where now you have people being disgusted with the opposite end. So I guess Big Tent Party is the future. Not a huge tent. You don't have to compromise on everything, but right. You do have to acknowledge the anomalies in people, and that everyone's different. And if you're going to be searching for, pure, perfect, ideologically consistent 100% of the time people to only be part of your movement, you're not really going to find many of them. Okay. Especially because a lot of these social conservatives on Twitter that love to talk about LGBT people being excluded, a lot of them are secretly gay behind the scenes.
All right, so. I gotta cut you off there. That's a loaded statement. True. I know, John, people want to respond to that stuff. Maybe you are secretly gay behind the scenes. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're super straight. It doesn't really matter. Guys, I want to hear your thoughts below in the comments. We could kind of go on with this conversation forever. And I want to let you know something. Obviously, Karlyn and Lauren and Blaire and John coming on, this is something that we don't get a lot of. And before I wrap things up, I just want to let you guys know that you can follow Karlyn, you can follow Lauren, you can follow Blaire and John. All their links to their social medias in the description. If you hate them, if you love them, please don't harass them, but just follow them.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, big loser in that panel was Blaire White. Karlyn Borysenko actually did aggressively defend her. Not only did Karlyn Borysenko defend her positions, she defended herself personally against Nazi lady who wanted her husband deported. So she actually had, a spine and defended herself. And then you have Blaire White, who probably, I imagine, after that conversation, just wanted to kill herself. Blaire, again, like all of this is you do this to yourself. You're totally capable of restructuring your life in a way that makes this not happen. But whatever. I'm actually going to say, I'm actually surprised that Blaire White didn't respond to being insulted by talking about how pretty she is, because that's what she does in every single one of her videos. She'll have the picture of another trans woman who's maybe less conventionally attractive. And then there will be Blaire's face, and Blaire will, and that'll be the argument right there. Well, that was fun. There's the conservative intelligentsia going on right there. Look at that. Whew. Oh yeah, that's really good stuff. Well, just keep that in mind. Keep it in your hearts. Conservatism is not good. It's not a good thing, you know? It's not good. A tweet from Blaire White. Blaire White blocked me on Twitter quite a while ago. I don't even remember what. Oh, yeah, well. How many followers does Blaire White have? 300,000. We saw that video recently where Blaire White was defending the super straight movement, even though the very first video clip that she played, the guy explicitly said, trans women aren't women. And then Blaire White was like, it's just a sexuality. You liberals are so triggered. So yeah, Blaire's, you know. We have this? Wait, what's the... Here's Blaire White's TikTok on the subject. And this, Blaire White retweeted this, but it was posted by the offensive T-slur, who is, well, there you go.
So super straight is apparently a thing. And I have to say, as a trans person, if I am not your preference, I am A-okay with that. And any trans person who's not okay with that, something's wrong with them. They're creepy. However, I find it so funny that the people who are the most offended by super straight are the same people who invent new sexualities once a week like it's a merch drop. Like, at this point, there are hundreds of sexualities online that are less valid than a straight person who doesn't have attraction to trans people. Chill out.
So keep in mind, the explicit message of the very first super straight video opened with a sentence in which the guy said, I don't think trans women are women. I think they're men. That was the opening. That was like the starter pistol being fired at the relay race. That was the whole beginning of this. But hey, you know, gotta keep it going. I know that you all probably very mad at Blaire White, but you have to understand that there is no more miserable in existence than the one that she has. I hope you guys know that. It is there is no conceivable way that a human being can live a more miserable life than a person who has adopted the role Blaire White currently adopts, you know? Is it wrong to only want to be with cis hetero people? I don't think there's anything wrong with having genital preferences necessarily, because I think that attraction towards genitalia is in many people's minds a heavily gendered thing, and frankly, you can't force a person to be attracted to another person they're not. The only thing that I would say is that if you're not attracted to trans people, maybe think about it for a little while and wonder what it is. Are they physical characteristics that you associate with being trans that you're not attracted to, or is it something about the concept of being trans that you take issue with? If it's the former, then, I mean, people are attracted to what they're attracted to, and nobody was ever made less bigoted by society forcing them to be attracted to somebody they weren't. But if it's because you think there's something inherently unattractive about transness, not even a physical characteristic, but the state of being trans, then maybe that's born of some prejudice that you could think about, you know? That's all I say. But really, the number of trans people who are like, you shouldn't have genital preferences, you should be attracted to every trans person, otherwise you're transphobe, this is an incredible minority. But Blaire White will agree with people who say that she is a man as long as it allows her to make fun of the triggered trans snowflakes or whatever. So, yes. That's the game, isn't it?